everyone, and welcome to part 2 of Canvas and Cookies. We're going to be doing our jack-o'-lantern, and we have 3 rules here at Spirited Art. The first rule is that this is totally your painting. So if you want to change how this mask looks, or the colors that we used, or what's in the background, that's totally up to you. Number 2, don't drink your paint water because it's going to get gross, especially with all these dark colors that we're going to be using. And number 3, keep your brushes in the water when you're not using them because this is acrylic paint and it will dry really quickly. All right, let's get started. We are going to work on the background first. So take your big brush out of the water and you want to dry it off because we're going to be using black and we don't want black dripping down our canvas. I also have my assistant Andrew here. He's going to be painting along with us so that I don't go too fast or too slowly. So big brush in just the straight black, and we're going to add that to the top of our painting, and you want to go all around the jack-o'-lantern. So if you would like to use your little brush to trace out the jack-o'-lantern and the mask and the stem, that's totally good. You can do that and it might make it easier for you. I'm just using my big brush, and there's a line here. This is kind of the ground line, so I'm going to just do black above that. Below that is going to be brown. It's kind of like the jack-o'-lantern sitting on a fence, or maybe it's in some hay. It's the brown at the bottom. If you go a little bit further with black over that line, that's fine. The brown will go on top, and we're actually going to use some black in that brown, so it will be fine. But basically try to keep the black above that line that's on either side of the jack-o'-lantern. I'm just outlining a little bit here, and then I'm filling in. Also, if you see these little white dots, you want to put a little bit more paint on your brush. That just is the little crevices in the canvas, and they are basically getting filled in with paint. So you want to make sure you have enough paint on your brush to fill those in. We don't want any white spots in our sky until we actually put the stars in. All right, so I'm going around the mask and the pumpkin. How are you doing over there, Andrew?
Good.
Good? All right, perfect. Yours looks a little bit washed out, buddy. You might want to get some more black on there. So it's a dark night sky. If you feel like it, you could put a little blue in your sky. So it's kind of that dark midnight blue. In fact, if you want to see, I'll just add a little bit of blue on my brush. Kind of brush that in. It gives it just a little bit of dimension. And if you don't like it, just keep working your brush back and forth and it'll mix right into the black and you won't even see it. Okay. Good, Andrew? All right, looking good. All right, so now I'm not going to rinse my brush, but I'm just going to dip right into the brown, okay? And I'm going to come up from the bottom, and I'm just gonna pull up. It's okay if it gets in the black, because some of these are gonna be darker than others. And I'm just gonna pull up from the bottom. Just keep dipping in brown. You're gonna get black in there, but it's okay. And you're just filling in all around this pumpkin. We'll probably need to go back with some brown after we fill in our pumpkin. I don't want to get into the pumpkin right now, so I'm just going to try to keep it below the pumpkin and up on the sides. But I'm filling in all of that bottom part. And like I said, it's okay if there's some black in there too, because we want some different color browns in here. It's a little hard for me to get the bottom of my canvas because of all the paint that's down there, but I'm basically turning my brush on its side to make these grasses or hay or whatever you want to say that he's sitting on there. Just come right up to the bottom of the pumpkin. We'll add the ones that are in front of the pumpkin at the end. Okay, so I've got a lot of little brown brush strokes coming up from the bottom of my canvas. And all I'm doing, I haven't rinsed the brush I haven't rinsed the black out. I'm just adding brown into my brush, that red brown that you have, and that's what I'm adding on top of what I have there. Every time I do that, the browns are getting a little bit lighter, and it also adds that little touch of red in there. Now you'll notice there's some lighter spots. That's a little bit of yellow. We can probably do that later. If you want to try just a little bit of yellow on your brush now, you can brush that in. Just a little bit here and there. You don't want much. All right, so you got that yellow. If it gets too yellowy, go back with a little bit of brown. You've got some black in there, so you've got some dark brown patches too. And that's gonna be our background. If you have brown in your brush and you wanna fill in the stem now, I'll go ahead and fill that in. We'll give it a little more dimension after a while, but since I still have that brown in my brush, I'll just go right in there, fill it in. All right, then I'm gonna rinse because I've got a lot of dark colors and we're actually gonna make orange next. So I wanna make sure I rinse everything out. So really, really rinse that brush really well. And actually, before we do any mixing, I'm gonna take my little brush, which should still be clean, and I'm going to use straight yellow, and I'm just gonna fill in the eyes and the mouth because I wanna get a base coat of yellow on there. We might put some orange in there too, but I want that base coat of yellow to be bright inside the eyes and the mouth. This guy looks kind of freaky right now, but don't worry, it's all gonna come together. He's kind of making me a little worried. All right, so we got that. Before anybody gets orange or green or purple in there, we've got that bright, bright yellow. All right, now we need to make our orange. You ready, bud? Yep. All right, cool. I'm gonna mix this with my big brush, and I'm gonna take a scoop of yellow. If you already did the fox, this is just what we did to make the orange fox. I'm gonna do a little bit of red, and this time I really do want a pumpkin orange. So I have a nice medium orange there. And that's exactly what I want to fill in my pumpkin. Okay, yep. If you have a little bit of green in your brush or a little bit of brown, it can be a rusty orange color, that's totally fine. Lots of different color pumpkins. I'm going to go ahead and fill in pumpkin. You can use your little brush to get into some of these smaller spaces. I'm probably going to come back with my little brush around the mouth. And you might need 2 coats of this orange because it might look a little bit streaky. I'm just doing what I can with the big brush, then I'll come back with the little guy. If you notice that my orange is a little bit lighter than the original, that's true. I'm seeing that too. If you want to add a little more red in there, you certainly can do that. I think mine's going to get a little bit darker when I put a second coat on also. All right. How are you doing, Andrew?
Good.
Okay, that's looking good, bud. Oof. All right, I'm going to take my little brush. Yep, that's fine. You're gonna have a little bit of a brown orange in there, bud, because you have some other colors, and that's totally good. I'm gonna add a little bit more red to part of my orange to darken it up. And with this, I'm gonna start at the top. Maybe I'll get a little darker. Little bit of red into your orange with your little brush. This is gonna be a dark red orange, and we're actually gonna draw the sections of the pumpkin. So we're gonna come up to the top, and we're just going to draw a little, it's almost like a parenthesis. You're drawing little parentheses, skip a space. Okay, and then you're gonna, in the middle, you're gonna draw the parenthesis the other way. And see how I'm sectioning off this pumpkin? So I'm coming from the top, and I'm just keeping that line going. So I'm skipping the part where the mask is, but I'm basically drawing the same line and then finishing it up on the bottom. So I'm sectioning off my pumpkin. You can put that dark color at the edges too. And all you're doing is skipping a little space and adding some of that red orange in. If your main orange is very wet, it may be blending right in, and that's totally fine. You can see right here, there's not a big difference in my color. That's completely fine. Pumpkins, you can go back and forth with a dark orange, some yellow, and the regular orange that you have. If you want to put a little bit of orange in those eyes now, or even just kind of outline them a little bit, you can do that. Same thing with the mouth. Give it a little bit of an outline. Maybe put a little bit of orange in there. Okay. If you want to add just a little bit of brown, you can add some of that red brown, or if you have some dark brown, you could add a little brown into your orange. I just added a little bit of that dark brown, and I can add that into my pumpkin too. This is totally your call. Whatever you would like to put into your pumpkin, as far as what color oranges, you can do that. I'm gonna take a little bit more brown into my orange. Okay, and I am ready for the mask. Okay, I'm gonna rinse my brush really well, and we have to make some green. So, we don't need a lot of this, so I'm just gonna use my little brush. I'm gonna take a big scoop of yellow and about like a half scoop of blue. Gonna mix those up. If you want it to be more of a lime green color, you can add some more yellow. This is kind of a medium green. I'm gonna add a little more yellow to mine. If you want it to be darker green, you can add a little more blue. And if you have green left over from the fox where we drew the leaves and the acorns, you can use that. All right, so I am going to fill in the left side of the mask. Be careful when you're near the background, it might still be wet. I'm just using my little brush because it's not a big area. This is kind of a zigzag in the middle there. And if you have some orange that came into your mask and you need to cover over that, you can add just a little bit of white to your green, and that will actually cover your orange. So I can see orange through my green there. So I can either try to make it a little bit darker by adding another coat, or I can actually add a little bit of white to my green and paint over it. The other thing I could do is, see these little designs in there with the white? I could actually just use a little white on the edges, almost like an outline, and that would cover up the orange that I see. But it just with the second coat, it may actually cover up. So if your first coat looks a little bit streaky, give it a minute and then add some more paint on top. All right, that's my green side. Andrew, oh great, okay, Andrew already made his purple. That's cool. I'm gonna rinse my brush. This is gonna be a dark purple. I'm gonna take a scoop of red and equal parts blue and mix that together for my purple. This is a dark, dark purple. This looks a little red, so I may, yeah, it's actually pretty good. If you want to add a touch of black to it to darken it up, you certainly can do that. I think mine's dark enough. This one has a little bit more blue in it, so mine's a little reddish. You know what, I'm going to add one more scoop of blue, because I like that blue purple a little bit better. Now look at this. See how those two are different? This is more of a reddish purple, which is totally fine. But I have this blue purple now because I added just a little bit more blue. All right, I am gonna fill in that other part of the mask. And watch out for that zigzag. You don't want, if the green is still dry, try to keep away from the green because you don't want to mix and get some brown there. I've got all different color purples in here. All right, so I've got my mask. I'm cleaning up the edges a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna let that mask dry just a little bit. I'm gonna rinse my brush, and because I'm drawing a leaf on the top of my pumpkin, I am gonna add some white to the green that I had, because I want this green to go over top of the black. So I do need to add some white to that green. And then I'm gonna draw a little almond-shaped leaf at the top of my pumpkin. So I'm just going to do a little almond shape. If you want, you can think of this as a V. You could do a V, like an upside down V, and then fill it in. You could do that. If you want to add some squiggles, like you know, sometimes pumpkins have a little bit of vine, you could do something like that, but you don't have to. All right, I'm gonna rinse my brush. As long as your background is dry, we can use white now to add some stars and also the boo in the background. So I'm gonna rinse my brush, and I'm gonna use straight white. So rinse. All right, yes. Looking good, bud. Looking good. All right, straight white. I'm gonna put some dots. Just dab. These can be little stars. You could make a crisscross for a star. Put a few of those in there. And then on this side, I'm gonna write the words boo. So what I'm gonna do is just write the letters, and then I'm gonna fatten them up a little bit. So I'm going to leave myself enough room. Remember, you have B, O, O. So you don't want to start next to the edge. You want to come over here. I'm going to start with the B. Now, you can see I'm graying out here a little bit. I may need to wait. My black may not be completely dry. I'm being a little bit impatient here. Let's see if I can get the O on there. Okay, and then once your black is a little drier, you can come fatten those letters up a little bit. I'm gonna have to wait on that guy, right? Yeah, I'll come back to that guy. I'm gonna put the stars over here. I gave myself a little crisscross, a couple dots. I believe, if I remember correctly, that I saw someone do splatter. So they did a little bit of white splatter on this one. Yeah, that's certainly an option. All right, and now I'm gonna use the white. I'm gonna brush some of it off so that I don't have a lot on there. And I'm just going to make some designs. I'm gonna start on the green because we painted that first. So that's gonna be, oh, still wet. That's gonna be drier than the purple. Might need to wait a minute. Might need to wait a minute on that. But I'm going to add a little bit of white. You could either use straight white or you could add white into your green to make a very, very light green. And I'm just going to add some lines, some dots, maybe some dots to this side of the mask. One, two, three, right down the side of the eye. And maybe one squiggle. If yours is as wet as mine is, you may want to wait. Okay, so I've got some design on that side. I'm gonna rinse because this is a light green. And I'm just gonna take a little bit of white and try to add some white into my purple. So I'm just making this a lighter color. I'm not sure that it's straight white. This looks like it's a little bit lighter purple color, so I just put a little white in the purple that I made. And I'm doing some dots. Line, dot, line, dot. Now if that doesn't look light enough, you can add some more white to it. And then it's got that swirl in the center, and then on those three little dots that go down the side of the eye, 1, 2, 3, just like we did on the green side. So there is symmetry to it. There's 2 dots in the center, there's 3 dots going down the side of the eye, and then there's some lines and dots on the edges. Now you can make any pattern that you like, but that's what we have here. All right, last thing we said we were gonna do, if you wanna rinse, little brush, we need to put some of the grass in front of the pumpkin. So my brown is dried up, so I'm gonna put some brown with just a tiny bit of black. And I'm just going to put some strokes right in front of the pumpkin. Doesn't have to go all the way across. I just wanna add some of this brown. If you have any white spots between the pumpkin and the brown grass, this is a good time to fill those in because we don't really want any white space down there unless that's part of your design. But now you can see some of that brown grass. If you want to use a little black and yellow, because the other time we got a little bit of yellow in there to lighten some of it up. You can do that. And now you have some of that hay or grass or whatever he's sitting in front of the pumpkin. That makes him look like he's a little bit behind that, which is what we want. All right. That is our jack-o'-lantern in the mask. I hope you had fun doing that. You know what? One more thing, actually, I see if you want to use that dark brown and just give a little bit of outline to the stem. I always like to do that little circle at the top of the stem. This one's kind of sitting on its side, and if you want to give a little outline, that's kind of good. You could put a little more brown in there if you want. All right, I want to thank my assistant, Andrew. Thanks for painting with us, and now you can paint your cookies. Get fresh water, and I hope you have fun with those designs that are on our Halloween cookies.
And if you missed it, watch the video where I paint them.
Yep.